fighting for freedom every day.
They are absolutely desperate to pretend the last 4 years never happened and for them to go back to what they liked to do before, which is create these massive spending bills to pretend that it's really, really important to you when you only get about 5% of what's in the bill, and they can't do it because we're aware of it. We're paying attention to it, and they don't like that.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Darn right, it's the Voice of Reason. Welcome into the program. Thanks for hanging out, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on our flagship radio station all over the country, radio and TV, plus the live streaming and podcasting thereafter as well. Great to have you today, your Millennial General, reporting for duty today, and boy, do we have a lot to get to. It's going to be a crazy one. Because, well, just the world's a crazy place. So welcome into the show. I have to admit, can I have a guilty admission here just for a second? Usually don't do this, but I have to admit I'm kind of excited about a nerdy movie coming out. And yes, it's a child's movie, and yes, I do not really care. So being the nostalgic millennial that I am, and I know that my generation apparently just can't let go of the past, which is why we have so many superhero movies out there today, which is why we have, apparently, have you ever heard they actually have Nerf gun arenas? Nerf gun arena, kind of like how you have like laser tag. Oh, they have Nerf guns. Why? Because my generation are dorks and we like to pretend like we're kids forever, and we just want to keep the nostalgia going on, which is why we continue on with our comic books and our video games and our superheroes and our Nerf guns and everything of the sort. So I have to delve into my millennialism, I guess, just for a minute. And I don't know if you've seen, but there was a leaked image of the new Space Jam 2 coming out. No, I am conflicted on this, and I do not know whether I'm going to watch this movie or not. I am not a fan of LeBron James. He was a very far progressive left-wing Democrat who just does not understand common sense. He's been in the major leagues, professional basketball since high school, so he doesn't have really a sense of reality or grounding in any way, shape, or form. And I do not like LeBron James in any way, shape, or form. But it's Space Jam 2, and it's Bugs Bunny. And I grew up with Space Jam 1 with Michael Jordan, where it was probably one of the best movies of my entire childhood. And I'm really debating on whether I'm going to watch this movie or not. And there was a leaked image of Space Jam 2 with a 3D Bugs Bunny. Now, if you remember the story from the first one, Michael Jordan got sucked into whatever it was to go to Toonland to play basketball with all the cartoon characters in the animation world. So this looks like maybe Bugs Bunny comes to our world because the image is him, but with real people all around him. So I don't know exactly what the storyline's going to be here. Space Jam: A New Legacy with LeBron James and 3D Bugs Bunny. I am kind of really excited about Space Jam, although I am not excited about supporting LeBron James in any way, shape, or form. So I'm conflicted, and I need a little assistance on whether I should, a little guidance on whether I should actually watch this movie or not when it comes out, because I don't want to support LeBron James. I don't want to support his crazy left-wing tactics. However, it's Space Jam, man. Come on. Kind of excited about it. Welcome into the show. We have a lot to get to. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, so maybe I'll ask this to the psychologist. Psychologist Carole Liebermann, we've had her on before. She is a doctor. She's a professional, and we're going to be talking about millennialism plus video game addiction. Is it a real thing? And what could you experience with video game addiction? Do you know somebody with video game? I can see one of those, like, what is it? Sarah McLachlan commercials. Do you have someone with video game addiction? Do you struggle with video game addiction yourself? You can do this. You can fight through it. So we'll talk with her about that in a little bit, what it actually means, and is there actually a positive for video games? Again, this goes into my generation, but is that the last sanctuary for some to express themselves as the alpha male that many are with video games? You're not allowed to impress women anymore, apparently, because that's ultra masculinity, and that's very, very bad in society, and you're an evil jerk if you try to impress women with your ultra masculinity. You're not allowed to be the sports enthusiast any longer because you're trying to spread maleism across the nation, and we're just dominated by males, apparently, and you're not allowed to do that. Although if you're a male that pretends to be a female, then you can do that, and it's totally cool, and then you can, like, crack the skulls of women if you try and fight in the MMA, so you can still use your masculinity just in a feminine way and say that it's feminine, and then you can do whatever the hell you want to. So it's a messed up world, but is there a last sanctuary for alpha maleism in the nation through video games? And then is there the other extreme on video game addiction? So we'll cover all that and more coming up on the program today. You can always find us on our online streaming, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. that we have right now. Plus, you can go to the website at HooserReason.com and watch all of it. So there's a big story today. House of Representatives passed a major piece of legislation in our What's Trending for the day.
What's trending today?
And this is a little concerning to me, but do not fret, my friends. Do not worry. Do not think that the end is near, because the battle continues on, and this went through the House of Representatives in a complete partisan fashion. However, if we continue on with our filibuster process in the U.S. Senate, we should be okay. We hope. We hope. But the big news today, Biden celebrates House passing H.R. 1 out of the U.S. House of Representatives, vows to work to, quote, refine and advance legislation. Now, what this bill is, if you have not heard nor paid attention in any way, shape, or form, it's the Democrats' campaign bill promising integrity. I'm going to try and say it with a straight face. It's a bill for integrity in our election process. I know. We are literally coming off an election where it was probably the most lack of transparency in an election, where we had some of the most weird shenanigans in an election, and yet they want to do a election integrity bill when there was very little integrity in this last election, thanks to the left side of the aisle. So I have the actual legislation from Congress.gov, the actual bill. So we're going to break down part of this. I obviously cannot get through this entire bill because it is a very long bill. But before we get into the bill, I want you to know you don't need to fret. Why, Andy? Because we still have the filibuster in the Senate. Now, President Joe Biden praised this, which means if it did go through the Senate, he would sign it and we would be in a really bad shape. What they want to do is absolutely absurd in this bill. Between internet registration for voting, Andy, it's the 21st century, just get along with it. No, we're not going to go along with something like this. I've been trying to think of a metaphor, some type of analogy to try and explain the reasoning behind something like this. But the best way I could try to explain the stupid in this is they want to overload the system to the point to where if there is any voter fraud in any way, shape, or form, you would have no way to track it. It would be so grand, almost like this last election, that you would never, ever, ever be able to go through and actually do an investigation to catch all the fraud in order to change or overturn or challenge an election in any way, shape, or form. They want total dominant control. No longer do they want states to really control the election system at their statewide level. Now, just this conversation itself is probably going to get the show banned on a lot of social media, so it's probably going to be off very soon, so you might want to listen to it kind of early on. But this is going to overload the system to a point of no return by doing internet registration, automatic voter registration. You go to the DMV, you get your driver's license renewed, you're automatically going to be registered to vote. Same day voter registration. Oh yes, same day. I totally forgot to vote. You've already signed me up. I already have my name at the DMV. I already tried to register online. Oh, but you know what? I've ignored all of that stuff. Now I'm just going to show up on the polling day after 2 years of a campaign. I feel like registering today. Okay, sign here, go ahead and go vote. At the same time, you go down voter registration efficiency, availability, requirement payments, prohibiting interference with voter registration. Not allowed to interfere in any way, shape, or form. If you say, wait, the signatures don't quite look alike here. Nope, not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to interfere. If someone wants to register, no matter what the requirements may be, you're not allowed to challenge those requirements. You're only allowed to just say yes and then go along with the process and let them go on. Here's the crazy part. Part 10, Section 1094, acceptance of voter registration applicants from individuals under 18 years and older. So I want to read parts of this bill. Because to me, it blows my mind how we've allowed to even get to this point. It is devastating if this would actually go through. I hope that it does not go through, but Democrats are praising it because it did pass with a 220 to 210 partisan vote in the House of Representatives. So if all Republicans vote against it, we will be fine in the Senate. Again, if we don't allow the filibuster to be removed. Requiring availability of internet for online registration. Each state, this is, by the way, Section 6A of internet registration. Each state acting through the chief state election officer, shall ensure that the following services are available to the public at any time on the official public website of the appropriate state and local election officials in the state, the same manner and the subject and the to the same terms and conditions of the service provider, the voter registration, and online application for voter registration, online assistance for applicants in applying to to register to vote, online completion and submission by applications or by applicants of the mail voter registration application from prescribed by the Election Assistance Commission pursuant of section whatever. It goes on down. A state shall accept an online voter registration application provided by an individual under the section and ensure that the individual is registered to vote in the state if the individual meets the same voter registration requirements applicable to individuals who register to vote by mail, and the individual meets the requirements of subsection to provide a signature in electronic form. Meaning, you no longer have to verify your signature. You can just sign online. Now, if you've ever signed any documents online, like DocuSign, where you sign for like maybe purchasing a home with realtor issues or with contracts that you sign online, the DocuSign, they just have to type in their name and click it, and then boop, the signature automatically pops up there. How do you know that that person is actually legitimately signing that document? Now, some have the actual touch screen where you click and you try and do it and it looks messy. Again, not your real signature because it looks like crap. Mine looks like garbage anyways, but really, when you try and sign with an online little touch screen or your mouse, it looks like garbage. How can you verify a signature that way? They don't want to verify signatures. It's ridiculous. Automatic voter registration. This part might be cited as the Automatic Voter Registration Act of 2021. Congress finds that the right to vote is a fundamental right of citizens in the United States. The responsibility of the state and federal governments to ensure that every eligible citizen is registered to vote. Existing voter registration systems cannot be accurate, costly, inaccessible, and confusing, with damaging effects on voter participation in elections for federal office and disproportionate impacts on young people, persons with disabilities, racial and ethnic minorities. Yeah. I mean, that goes into the whole, you're minority, so therefore you cannot afford to get a driver's license to verify your ID because you're just a poor black person. You're just a poor Hispanic person. That's probably the most racist thing anybody could ever say, but they're allowed to do it because, well, you know, that's just what they're allowed to do. And then you get down to section number 10, or part 10, voter registration of minors. Section 1094, acceptance of voter registration applicants from individuals under 18 years of age. Section 8 of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, as amended by Section 1004, is amended by redesignating subsection K, inserting after subsection whatever. In general, a state may not refuse to accept or process an individual's application to register to vote in elections for federal office on the grounds that the individual is under 18 years of age at the time the individual submits the application, so long as the individual is at least 16 years of age at such time. You could be 16 years old and register to vote. Now, when you talk about Democrats really trying to pander to the lowest common denominator here, that's what they're trying to do. No longer do they want to represent you who actually have a job. They want to represent the activist 16-year-old high school student that they can brainwash and influence. Now, these are the same people, mind you, that they say, well, 16-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to carry a firearm. 16-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to drink. 16-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to smoke cigarettes. 16-year-olds can't afford to get off their parents' insurance and be able to go on to their own insurance. 16-year-olds aren't real adults because they're not mature enough. So they're not really adults because they're the ones on that side of the aisle that have been pushing the age limit up and up and up to be considered an adult to the age of 21 at least. But you can vote at 16 years old. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Come on.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Missed part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the voice of reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the program. Thanks for hanging out with us today. 24 minutes past the hour, radio and TV, plus the live streaming as well. Carole Liebermann, Dr. Carole Liebermann, will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Looking forward to chatting with her. But right now, H.R. 1. I would love to hear, and again, this really is typical with the left side of the aisle. You really can't be surprised of like, oh my gosh, they're allowing 16-year-olds to vote. Say, what? I could just see them coming out and be like, well, my constituents wanted us to have free pizza every single day. Well, what constituents wanted that? Well, the 16-year-olds wanted us to have that. Oh, okay. Well, do they know anything? Well, no. Well, do they understand? Well, no. I mean, they're politically active because they're in school. Oh, who's encouraging that political activism? Gee, I wonder who. Maybe the schools in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the teachers in some way, shape, or form. Maybe even their parents a little bit. But that's the rebellion time. So the conservative parents, no, you can't listen to those guys. We need to change the world. We need to have more David Hoggs around there in the world, right? Yeah. So they want to appeal to them because they realize that that would just grow their voter base because the activist movement at 16 years old is exponential. Till they get into the real world and be like, wow, this really kind of sucks. Not like world itself, but just, wow, the high taxes and the high regulation. And man, I can't get a job. The wages are too high and they won't hire me because I don't have any experience. I need to go to college. College is really expensive. What am I going to do? I guess I need to move back in with my parents. Oh, I need to try and find a social life. Oh, I need to try and work really hard. I got to pay off my debts. What am I going to do? They want to catch them before all that happens. So that way they could say, well, it's all their fault because they won't allow you to get this stuff for free. Well, it's all their fault. Now, when you ask them, well, can a 16-year-old carry a firearm? Oh, no, that would lose their minds over that. If you say, all right, well, can a 16-year-old actually be allowed to drink? No, their brain is not completely developed yet. What's wrong with you? All right, well, can a 16-year-old actually be allowed to buy cigarettes? It used to be 18. Now it's up to 21 in many states. Or is that across the nation? I don't know if it's across the nation or just statewide, but many states now have raised the bar for tobacco usage up to the age of 21 as well. So as they continue to delay maturity and delay adulthood, which I've always said, I don't care what it is, as long as we make it across the board. When you can purchase a gun, you can sign up for the military, you can go and vote, you can get alcohol, you can get cigarettes, you can get your own insurance. At what level do we say, you've passed your rite of passage, you are now an adult, see you later, have fun, go do your thing. I think that that's right about that 16 to 18 years. But all of it has to be included. You cannot say you are smart enough to choose our elected officials and the policies that you want, but you are not smart enough to handle your daily life with firearms and things that are potentially very scary and very dangerous to people who do not understand them. You can't say that. That doesn't make any sense. Literally does not make any sense. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But they want to include 16-year-olds to be able to actually go and vote with this H.R. 1 that Democrats have passed 220 to 210 in the U.S. House of Representatives. Access to voting for individuals with disabilities. The bill goes on and on about how we are just oppressing the vote in the United States and we need to allow more individuals to vote. The only analogy that I can think about this entire process is you have a jar of sand and then you also throw in a handful of sawdust. And your job now is to go through the entire thing and try and find what grains of sand are real clean sand and what grains are actually sawdust that aren't supposed to be there. At some point, it is impossible to do depending on how big the jar is. And that's exactly, and you just say, you know what, forget it. I just can't, I have to toss out the entire thing. I just have to accept it the way it is. That's exactly what the progressives are trying to do with the voting system. We have what, 340, 350, 360 million voters, 350 million people in the country. Usually we get anywhere between 120 to 150 million voters in the country. You try and up that and just be like, well, we're not going to do any additional verification. Oh, and by the way, the bill says that you're not allowed to put any more stringent voting restrictions or regulations on the books outside of what they say. So now you can still host your elections at the statewide level, but we're going to set all the standards for it. And as a state, you're not allowed to go above and beyond what this says. Now, constitutionally, it says as long as you're a citizen, you can vote, and then the states can decide exactly what requirements are to verify said requirement of you being a U.S. citizen. Outside of that, it's up to the states. These guys say you can host the voting. We're just going to tell you how to do it, like a typical federal government Democrat.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hooser Media Network is way more than just the voice of reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast, Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that Rachel and Shannon want to help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hooser Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into it. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Radio and TV plus the live streaming. Trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag. Trying to rebrand the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. each and every day. It goes by so fast. Half hour already done already. Lots more coming up on the show. Make sure to check out HooserReason.com real quickly. Our little plug. If you have not checked out the website, it is kind of cool. We have the live stream up there every day. We have our latest blogs. It will pop up and ask you about the newsletter, which it just came out a couple of days ago. I've gotten some positive response on that, so thank you. We do have that come out at the beginning of each and every month. Just go to HooserReason.com. That's no I in Hooser, Hooser, reason.com. It'll ask you if you want to become a Hoosier-holic. You say, yeah, buddy. You sign up, totally free. We will not spam you all the time. We'll just send you a monthly newsletter at the beginning of each month about all the latest and greatest with the show and with the Hooser Media Network. So make sure to do that. And we got a lot of people each month signing up. It's growing exponentially every month, so thank you for that. We appreciate that very much. To shift gears a little bit, we touched on H.R. 1, and we'll cover that a little bit later again as well with the changing of the voting system. How far does it actually go and how dangerous could it potentially be? But until then, let's shift gears and get into something else of what's trending today.
What's trending today?
And I got to say, I love the new website and I love the new book that our next guest came out with that we have to talk about. Plus, I read a story. Being a millennial, this kind of fascinated me myself as well. But 1 in 10 gamers suffer from pathological symptoms due to video game addiction. Is it a thing? How bad could video games potentially be? And are there some benefits to them as well? I don't know. Let's talk to our next guest. I'm excited as she's a board-certified psychiatrist with a master's in public health, and we've had her on the time. It's been a while, actually, since we've had her on the program, but her latest website, terroristtherapist.com, is with her latest book, Lions, Tigers, and Terrorists. Oh my, how to protect your children in a time of terror. I'm excited to have on Dr. Carole Liebermann with us. Doctor, how are you, my friend?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I am so glad to have you back on the program, and the book looks fantastic, so I'm going to have to check this one out. But real quick, let's touch on that. How to protect your child in a time of terror. There's a lot of scary things in the world right now, but this book here, what are you describing as terror? Is it just the uncertainty in the world? Is it the COVID? What's the latest that we need to try and educate and protect our children with?
Well, the original focus of the book was on radical Islamist type terrorists or domestic terrorists or lone wolf terrorists, but it actually can be applied to whatever terrors there are in the world. Of course, now COVID and all of the political strife and the racial strife and just all of the craziness, the culture wars, cancel culture and all of that. There's a lot of terror outside. And, we've been somewhat protected in a sense by these lockdowns. I mean, protected, but still being harmed by being in lockdown and being lonely and isolated and all of that. But now that we're going to be going back into the world more, some of the impacts of what we've been through is going to be affecting us. For example, when kids go back to school, I mean, kids really need to go back to school. They should have gone back to school before now. No. But when they go back to school, it's going to be very difficult for them to re-engage with their friends, with their peers, with their teachers. People have been spending so much time, kids primarily, but not just kids, on video games and violent video games, that is really having an impact on making people more aggressive, so that when we go back together, it's going to, and especially in schools, there is going to be more aggression.
That is a concern. I mean, the isolation definitely isn't helping, and if they're staying at home, if they're doing the homeschooling, and then they turn around and play video games most of the day, I mean, I enjoy my video games as much as anybody else. I don't get a chance to play a whole lot of video games, maybe like an hour or two a week sort of thing, but I mean, I can imagine with younger children, especially middle school, high school students, they do their schooling online from home, and then they turn around and play video games for, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. That could lead to some serious problems.
Yes, absolutely. Because there hasn't been the usual things to distract them, or, sports and so on. And so there has been much more online, doing things online altogether, from social media and then playing video games. And, there have been studies over the years that have shown that people who play violent video games get more aggressive the more hours of playing that they do. So it doesn't mean that everybody's going to turn into a serial killer, but it means that, some people have become more aggressive, let's say fighting over a parking spot or domestic violence, things like that.
Interesting. Now, why do you think that is? Is it just because of the video game being violent? Is it maybe a lack of parenting, kind of putting the game into context? Is it just because you get so consumed by it that that's just kind of your life? I mean, what would be the reasoning for something like that?
Well, kids who have parents who have been neglecting them, or certainly who have been, if they've been abusing them, in other words, kids who are having problems, basically, and who therefore turn more to video games because they're feeling depressed and so on, they will consume more hours, and they are more likely to be impacted. And it has to do with the fact that you get rewarded in video games. You get it rewarded by points, and then the, competitions and all of that. There is a reward for being more violent, for killing people, for killing people in all different kinds of ways, and then sex, rape, and all of this. You're pushing buttons to make that happen. Yeah. And it becomes, that's the military actually teaches soldiers to kill on video games.
Sure. No, I can definitely see it. Now, I've also seen a story that I found quite intriguing, was that because of the, as you mentioned before, the cancel culture, and then the toxic masculinity that we see in society today, you're not allowed to try to impress women. You're not allowed to be the adrenaline junkie. You're not allowed to be the quote unquote alpha male that society, shuns nowadays, apparently. That video games are almost the last sanctuary for boys and men to be a little violent or do a little extreme things like that. Is that true? And do you see that argument as well, with that being kind of the last sanctuary for the quote unquote alpha male?
Well, I think it's very sad that, I don't believe in this, toxic masculinity kind of thing, and that alpha males are bad. This is a feminist perspective that has been not only destroying men and boys, but destroying relationships. Men are supposed to be men.
Right.
I know
it's a wild concept.
Yes, this may seem surprising coming from a woman that I'm saying this, but it really has destroyed male-female relationships. And, in some ways, I'm sure some men do feel that way, that this is where they're allowed to be men by playing all these violent games. But that's really pretty sad, because it's having the opposite effect. It is making them more violent, whereas if they were just allowed to be men the normal way,
they could get that out elsewhere. They could go out and actually build something. They could, be the extreme junkie by riding a bike and doing jumps and tricks trying to impress the girl down the street, and then you end up tripping on the curbside and getting a scraped knee. That would be a totally better world, wouldn't it?
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about. I love it. We're talking with Dr. Carole Liebermann. Let's talk about real quickly, because that's a fascinating topic to me, the psychology of the movement right now with the women's movement, and then we see the LGBT, where the transsexual men can perform in women's sports. And I'm curious, from the women feminist movement side of that, do they agree? Because you know what, anybody can be a woman if they choose to do so. So if men are really competing in women's sports and dominating all the records, is that acceptable? Or do you see, even from the feminist side of many women, saying, wait a second, you're kind of taking the whole women's rights and women's ability away because men are just coming in and dominating here? What's the psychological side behind all this?
Well, most women, whether they are whether they would define themselves as feminist or not, most women do not want men or men who, people who just, identify as men in their locker rooms, in their sports. That whole thing that just passed through Congress is crazy, is just so destructive and so distorted. And it has to do with the influence over Biden of the Black Lives Matter, the three women who founded Black Lives Matter. They have been having an unbelievable influence and an inappropriate influence to begin with. Yeah. But this whole thing of LGBTQ and there's nothing wrong with LGBTQ, but the whole thing about getting people, even teaching kids. Now with Black Lives Matter, part of their agenda is, and not just them, but schools have been teaching kids in elementary school that they shouldn't, it's not cool if you identify with your biological sex.
Yeah.
It's a lot more cool if you are trans or you are just some deviation, anything but the actual gender that you were born with. And this is really confusing kids beyond belief. There's so many things going on right now that are destroying America, destroying the world. It's very, very concerning.
Well, it is concerning. It is concerning, and it's troubling that that's the hip, cool thing, the trend right now. I mean, who would have thought that gender identification would have been the trendy, cool thing for kids, especially for children? I mean, we're messing up an entire generation with that kind of mentality where that's what the trend is. It's not the cool hat and how to wear your hat sideways or backwards. It's not to wear the poofy pants that I remember in the 90s, growing up as a kid. It's not that kind of thing. It's the fact that you get to identify as a different gender, which is very strange to me. Dr. Carole Liebermann, check her out. terroristtherapist.com is the website. Doctor, we always appreciate the time very much. Let's do this again here real soon.
Sure, thank you.
Always a pleasure right there. We appreciate that very much. We'll take a break. We'll wrap up the show today already for a pre-Friday celebration. Lots more coming up here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Oh, hi. Conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what The Voice of Reason's all about. Why?
because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the program today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites and have the show automatically downloaded to your phone or computer every single day. Just find us on any podcasting site or go to HooserReason.podbean.com. And be sure to check out our Patreon site, become the ultimate Hooserholic, and help us fight for conservative values every day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Now back to the national broadcast of the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the program. Thanks for hanging out with us today on a pre-Friday celebration, one of the greatest days of the entire week because it's a day that ends in day. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Radio and TV plus the live streaming as well. The fastest hour of radio on radio and TV. Wherever you may be. So thanks again to Dr. Carole Liebermann. Interesting conversation as always. Appreciate chatting with her. I get a lot of comments on the social media and a few emails as well regarding the HR1 or HB1, House Resolution HR1, about the election issues where you have the automatic voter registration, you have the online voter registration, you have the same day voter registration where, you know, you can register all year long. There's a 2-year campaign, and then the day of the election, you're like, oh yeah, I totally forgot to go and register. And then you go and register, and you can do that apparently everywhere else. And they say that it's going to be more efficient. I have related it to they're going to bog down the system so much that you don't know. I mean, you don't know if you don't vote. Let's just say you don't vote, but yet they make you register to vote because, well, you went and registered for your driver's license. They got you registered to vote, but you're like, I don't do politics, man. I just don't go and vote. Who's to say that you're already registered? That would only open up the door of opportunity for them to be like, oh, I don't know how your vote got in the system. I have no idea how that happened. Oh, man, sorry. We'll just take that one away. But all of a sudden, you just showed that you showed up to vote. A vote got in the system for you. They want to make you be able to vote online. They want you to be able to just make it as easy, as convenient as possible. It's not supposed to be an easy and convenient process. It is supposed to be a process to verify yourself, to validate who you are, what you believe in, and then go and make your voice heard. There's supposed to be some red tape, some hurdles to jump over. And no, they are not racist. No, they are not stupid. No, they're not bigoted. No, they're not closed-minded. It's just fact, because we want to make sure that the process is legitimate. And if all of you, everybody, all 340 million people in the country are registered to vote, and only 120 million people vote, who's to say that the other 50 million didn't all of a sudden get dropped in there? Oops, we don't know where those came from. Then try and get someone to be like, well, you have 3 weeks to try and find voter fraud. You have 3 weeks to try and find some fraudulent activity on there. You have 3 weeks to try and find anybody to, didn't actually show up. And see how well that actually works for you. Again, it's trying to pick out sawdust from boxes of grains of sand and trying to figure out which is which and trying to actually make the process legitimate. At the same time, they want to lower that voting age to the age of 16, which, again, I just don't understand either. You're not an adult. You still have to have your parents' permission to do things. You cannot buy a car. You cannot buy cigarettes. You cannot buy alcohol. You cannot sign up for the military. You cannot go off on your own. You can't get your own insurance. You can't do anything at 16 years old. You can't carry a firearm. But yet, they want you to be able to vote. Because here's my personal thought. I really think that that's the Democrats' level of intelligence is at a 16-year-old age level. I'm serious. I'm not even trying to cause a joke there. I really think that their brain mentality is about the level of a 16-year-old. where you're wanting to throw dog poop at a door. I mean, that's about the level of intelligence of a Democrat in most of the country right now. So why not try to appeal to their voting base? Why not try to appeal? Sure, try and get a 16-year-old to go and vote. When you're so emotional and you're crying over your boyfriend, girlfriend, or it or other because you don't quite identify and you're just confused in the world, that's the Democrat Party. So, of course, they're going to try and make that vote. But here's what I would do. If they have the ability to vote and they have the ability to buy cigarettes, to buy alcohol, to purchase a car, to be able to go on their own, to be able to sign up for the military, to be able to get their own insurance, and bye-bye, you're an official adult. We're finally coming to the conclusion, maybe, left side of the aisle, that 16-year-olds are actually adults. Which 16, 18, whatever it is, needs to be that rite of passage at that exact same level. But when Democrats want them to vote at that level, then you know that they have an agenda, because I would love for an elected official to come out and be like, well, I did this X, Y, and Z because of the fact that I'm trying to appeal to my base. I'm trying to appeal to my voter base. And what is that voter base? They're children that do not even have the right to make decisions as adults, but they can go and vote. I'm telling you, it is a frustrating, sad bill. It's not going to go anywhere. The House of Representatives passed it 220 to 210, and it's going to the Senate. But the Senate needs, as far as I'm aware, still needs that filibuster vote. So they need the 2/3 or 67 votes, which they are not going to get right now because Republicans still have 50 of the votes, and they're not going to do it because no Republicans voted for it in the House of Representatives. But this is where we're at. The war is on, baby. The war is on, politically speaking. We need to stop this stuff. Call your elected officials. Make sure that this doesn't go anywhere, because this is pathetic. We're not even talking about the illegal votes, where it even says in there you need to be a citizen, but we didn't know if they were a citizen or not. Why? Because they registered online. You couldn't actually tell. But that did that with intention, by the way. They did that on purpose. That does it for us today. Podcast going up a little bit. We have one more day for the week. I'm excited for tomorrow. Congressman Bob Latta from the 5th Congressional District of Ohio. We'll get a monthly check-in from him on what's going on in D.C. Maybe we'll talk about this bill and some more. Until then, be your own voice of reason. It's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hooser. Everybody have a great Thursday. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.